This video is inspecting the hardware that we get with the table track kit, hardware kit for the Hydra system. In the box you should get the gooseneck mounting brackets, the power supply for the PC, the card reader, USB card reader, the USB right angle, and the tablet. Okay, so now we have the tablet with the power adapter plugged in. We're going to go ahead and turn the power on. We're going to give that a minute to come up. One thing to note is all of the usernames are 1. The password is 1. Username 1, password is 1. Security questions, where were you born? 1. What is your favorite pet? 1. Everything is 1. These tablets are set up where you don't have to put in a password. And also they auto start the app. In this particular case it's not going to work because we haven't configured the Wi-Fi and we haven't configured the Hydra database. So let's let it do its thing and then we'll go and configure those. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to exit out of this because we have to set up the Wi-Fi first. Let's go down here and set up the Wi-Fi. Okay, my Wi-Fi is already connected, but the first thing you have to do is you have to connect your Wi-Fi the very first time, and then it'll auto-connect after that. So let's go back over and let's restart the app, and let's set up the database connection. You hit this button that says UI configuration. The first thing you do is you select Microsoft SQL Server. In the first box, you put in the IP address of the Hydra server. In my case, the Hydra server is 192.168.1.116. Come down here and you move the radio button down to the second selection. You add the username in as SA. Come down to the next box, you add the password in small letters, Hydra, H-Y-D-R-A. You come down to the next box here, you hit the down arrow button, and if you have this upper area correct, you'll get a list of all your databases. The database that you want is called Player Panel. Whoops. Now once you select that, you can hit the Test Connection button. Test connection is good. I'm going to hit OK. Connection successful. Once you get that, you don't ever have to add that data in again unless you change the IP or you change the server or you change the Wi-Fi. If you keep everything the same, it'll come up automatically at this point. Okay, now the next screen is actually the dealer login. You have two choices here. You have dealer login and then you have the admin login, which is right here. So we're just going to do the dealer login for right now. So this would be when the dealer walks up to the table and is ready to log in. Typically, this is going to be mounted on the table. So let's do this. We have the USB 90-degree adapter. We have the card reader, which goes into the USB 90-degree adapter. Okay, now we have the tablet mounted in the mounting kit. This will be mounted to the table, and it has a gooseneck so it can be positioned to the best view of the dealer. Typically, you want the tablet in the vertical position. That's the normal operating position, is the vertical position, without the keyboard and the other stuff. Just the tablet itself and the card reader plugged in to the USB port. Okay. Since the table mountings are independent, you're going to have to figure out which brackets to use, which the best brackets to use, etc. But the mounting kit is very complete. It has all sorts of different options for mounting, but the idea is to have the gooseneck mounted on the table, and so it's positioned to be comfortable for the dealer to be able to dial in and type in things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter the dealer ID number, and in my case it's 2072, and the pin, my pin is 1234, and we're going to select the table style. So there can be very many tables. It could be blackjack, half moon, it could be roulette tables, it could be ovals like poker. There's a lot of different options. And for this example, we're going to use a half moon blackjack table. So this is what the dealer sees. This is what the dealer has next to him, standing at the table. Okay, so a player walks up and sits down in seat number 3. So the dealer says, do you have a player card? Yes, I have a player card. Okay, the dealer hits the number 3. The player hands the card. The dealer swipes the card. It says the name of the player. In this particular case, it's Sly Stallone. And the dealer hits confirm. So now Sly Stallone is in seat number 3. Now the game begins. Dealing blackjack, playing, betting, winning, losing, playing, winning, losing, playing. After, let's say, 15 minutes, we need to update the player's progress. So in this particular case, I have this table set up for 1 minute update. So after 1 minute, we will need to update this player's progress. So let's see what happens. Oh, by the way, while we're waiting, if you look down here, you'll see chair number 3, you'll see Sly Stallone, the number of current points he has, which is 305, his average bet is 0, and his buy-in is 0. Okay, you see his chair is flashing right now. That's the dealer at this point has to touch his chair and enter his average bet for the last 15 minutes. So if his average bet is in my case, dollars, it's going to be $5. Hit update, and that's it. So now you see the average bet is 5. So now the next session occurs for 15 minutes. Okay, the way this works is the number of points that a player earns is determined by the average bet, the number of chairs that are occupied, because the more chairs that are occupied, the slower the game goes. The less chairs that are occupied, the faster the game goes. This app has all those algorithms built in. So his average bet, based on the time, based on the number of players at that table, is determined how many points he earns. Okay, so we're going to go one more round here. I'm going to show you one other thing about his average bet. His average bet right now is $5 because that's what I entered on the first session. So now it's blinking again. And again, now the dealer has to hit that and enter the average bet. So let's say his average bet went to $10. Update. So now you see his average bet is $7.50. And that's all taken into account to determine the algorithms, to determine how many points this player is earning in this playing session. But you'll see now his current points are 350. So he went from 302 to 350 relatively quickly, but it's because for this particular demonstration, I have the session only lasting 1 minute, where typically it's 15 minutes. Okay, now the player gets up and leaves. The dealer touches the button, says, "Do you confirm the player has left?" Yes. And what was his average bet in the last session? Well, his average bet stayed at $10. So now the table is clean. Just to go through that again. Player comes up to the table, hands the dealer his player card, sits at seat number 6. The dealer hits seat 6, swipes the card. This card swipe can be mounted anywhere you want. It could be mounted on the table itself, which is what I prefer. It can be mounted to the side of the tablet. I prefer this thing to be double-sided tape and mounted to the table itself, on the edge of the table. It's easier for the dealer to swipe the card. You confirm the player, it'll tell his name, his current points, etc. Now I have the dealer active session on seat number 6. Now the game starts, blackjack, and after 15 minutes, that chair will start flashing again. But the player left. Yes, the player left. What was his bet? $5. Okay, now I have a clean table again. That's the basic operation of the table. Okay, we're gonna have another session here, just so we make sure we understand. The card reader is mounted on the table. Player comes up, hands me his card, says, "I'm going to sit in seat number 2. Okay. This particular player's name is John Smith. Okay, John, good luck. Another player comes up, sits down in seat number 5, hands me his card. Thank you. Oh, it's Tom Tito. Okay, good luck, my friend. Oh, another player comes up, sits down in seat number 4, hands me his card. Thank you. Oh, it's Big Jim Croce. Confirm. Okay, now I have 3 players playing. Again, understand that I have this table set up for a session only lasting 1 minute. So now the players are playing the game. You see down here, I have 3 players currently registered. Current points for John is 1,231. Current points for Tom is 6. Current points for Big Jim Croce is 83. Okay, we're playing blackjack. Okay, now the system wants me to update seat number 2. Well, seat number 2 is only betting $2 a hand. I'm going to update that. Now you see here where it says average bet $2 a hand. Now the system wants me to update seat 5. I'm going to update seat 5. He's playing $5 a hand. System wants me to update seat 4. He's playing $10 a hand. Now understand that I have this set up for only 1 minute sessions, sub-sessions actually. So in reality this could be 15 minutes or 20 minutes or really whatever the casino prefers to have a sub-session. Depends on how busy the dealer is, because it's very important that the dealer makes these updates for the system to know how much average bet the player is betting. Oh, player number 4, Big Jim Croce, left the table. So I've got to say yes, he left the table. His average bet was $5. I have to update John on seat number 2. His average bet's still $2. Tom Tito's seat number 5. His average bet is still $10. These are sub-sessions, so when a player leaves the table, that ends the session. So he may have 1 or more sub-sessions or 15-minute sub-sessions in that session. Oh, seat number 2 left the table. His average bet was $2 the whole time, so he's done. Tom left the table. His average bet was $10. He's left the table. But now these players have earned points, and they can go redeem these points now for prizes. It's just another example of a session on a table. So this is just to give a visual of the gooseneck that's mounting the tablet and the card reader. Again, I prefer the card reader mounted or double-sided taped to the table itself, at the edge of the table, and then the gooseneck mounted under the table and protruding the tablet out to the position that the dealer prefers. It's most comfortable, and they can move it around, you know, whatever's most comfortable, typically on the left side of the dealer. Okay, the next part is to talk about how to do the configuration of the dealers and the players. So let's X out of this. Actually, let's reinstall the tablet back into the keyboard, because it makes it a lot easier. Okay, I've reinstalled the keyboard back into the tablet back into the keyboard, just to make it easier. It can be done without the keyboard as well, but it just makes it easier for me to show. I'm gonna restart the app. Okay, when you get to the dealer login, you have an option to take me to the admin login. By the way, there's 2 different ways to do configuration of dealers and tables. You can do it from the tablet, or you can do it from the customer service station, and we're going to show you both ways. Okay, we'll start with the tablet. So take me to the admin login. Okay, the admin login is going to be small letters, super underscore admin. The password is going to be admin1234. Okay. So the upper section here is showing the dealers that I have equipped, and then the bottom section here is showing the tables that I have equipped. And if I go down a little bit further, because this is a horizontal screen now, I have some other options down below. So let's start with the dealer area. You're going to want to add your dealers in. These are dealers that I already have added in. Let's add a dealer in. And you're going to say the first name of the dealer is Andrew. Last name of the dealer is going to be Johnson. His username is going to be Andy. And his PIN is going to be my favorite, 1111. Save. Okay, now I have a new dealer, and he will be available to log into a dealer's screen, and you'll be able to get stats on that dealer, etc. Okay, you can't really see it because it's small, but he's actually added into the list here on the bottom. Also, you can edit these dealers and you can delete these dealers as needed. Edit the data or delete them. Now Andy, our new dealer, his ID or his dealer ID number is going to be 2076. So when he logs in from the dealer screen, it's 2076 in the top box and 1111 in the password box. That starts his session as a dealer. Now, the first thing it's going to do is going to ask him to select a table. Okay, so in the casino, you have several tables. You might have blackjack, you might have Caribbean stud, you might have roulette, you might have craps, whatever the table is. That table has to be configured in the database. And he will select that table. You might have more than one blackjack table. You might have more than one poker table. Each table has to be individually configured. So you could have blackjack BJ 100, BJ 101, BJ 102, BJ 103, etc. So what you would do is, these are all example tables that I give you when you get the system, so you know what to look at. But you would add your tables, and you can also delete the tables that we have added in there already. And the first thing you would do is you would give the table a name. I'm going to give this table a name of BJ 555. That's my first table. Now, remember I talked about sub-sessions? That's the amount of time that a player is sitting at a table before an update needs to be made on his average bet. You know, and typically this runs about 15 minutes. It could be longer, it could be 30 minutes, it could be less. It really depends on the preference of the casino manager. But I'm going to put in here 15. I'm going to put in here 15 for 15 minutes. Now, you have to also enter the average hands per hour. So you have to take each table individually, and you have to determine what the average number of hands dealt per hour. Or if it's a roulette table, what's the average number of games that they play per hour. Now on a typical blackjack table, the number could be 30. Again, that's all determined by the casino itself. You need to do an average number of games played on that table per hour. And it's going to be different. Poker is going to be different from roulette, is going to be different from blackjack, is going to be different from craps. All are going to be different. But that number has to be determined by the casino. So I'm going to put in here 30. Now the points multiplier, what that is if you want to give that particular table more points than another table. For example, let's say you have a roulette table that has very fast games, a point multiplier of a 1, but you have a very slow table like Pai Gow, and that table you might want to give a little bit extra because the games are so slow and they don't earn any points. So typically you would have a 1 in there, but you can give that table an extra multiplier to give a little bit of extra points because it's so slow. I'm going to give my table a 1.5. Table type. Okay, use the down arrow and you basically pick out from our list. Now, this list isn't limited. In the customer service station, you can actually add different types of tables. When you're doing it from the tablet, from the table track standpoint, you can only use what's in the list. So I'm going to say my table is a half moon table with 6 seats. The game, blackjack. Okay, now I have a new table, 555, blackjack. I put the configuration parameters in place, and so now I can try it out. Okay. So now you'll notice in the lower right hand corner of the screen you'll see a red, what looks like a power button. Well, let's do this first. Let's talk about the other options. You'll see some preferences here. One is the currency symbol. Now I have a dollar sign in there, but you can put anything you want. If this is Eastern Caribbean dollars, you can put EC in there. If this is Indian Rupee, you can put INR in there. If this is Costa Rican colones, you can put CRC in there. You can put anything you want in the currency box. Fraction, this is a number of digits after the point. For example, if this is US dollars, we have 2 digits after the point to indicate cents. So if I went to that, I would put 2. Typically in the United States, in casinos, they bet round dollars. So you're either going to bet $5, $6, $10. You're not going to bet $5.25. But in the case of multipliers or points or walkouts or whatever, you have to put in the number of digits after the fraction, if there is a fraction. Okay, the third box down here is the auto logout time. What that is in minutes is if a subsession is complete and the seat is flashing on the screen, that requires the dealer's attention at that point. Well, maybe the dealer's too busy and doesn't see that flashing. How many minutes do you want to wait for that dealer to update before logging out that player or closing that session? I currently have 1 minute. I'll reiterate what that means. So the player is playing, his 15-minute subsession is over, and the seat on the screen starts flashing for the dealer to update, but the dealer doesn't update it. So how long do we want to let that seat flash, waiting for the dealer to update, before we simply log that player out and close that session? I have it set at 1 minute. It could be set at 5 minutes because sometimes the dealers get busy and they can't update the screen fast enough. And it really depends on the the setup of the casino, how many dealers, etc. Okay. The next down is collect the buy-in amount. Okay, I currently have this set at a no. If you have this set at a yes, then what happens is when the player sits down at the seat and the dealer swipes the card, before the player session starts, the dealer has to input the buy-in amount from the player. In other words, the player sits down at the table and says, I want $100 in chips. So the dealer would have to enter 100 as the buy-in. That's an option for the casino if the casino wants to track buy-in. It's not required, it's an option. And the same for the last option here, which is the walkout amount. If the casino wants to track walkouts, walkout is how much did the person cash out when they left the table. So they bought in at 100, you gave them $100 worth of chips, they played for an hour, maybe they lost half of their money or all of it, and they want to leave the seat. The dealer would enter the walkout amount at 0 if the player lost all of his money, or maybe the player doubled his money and he cashes back in $200 worth of chips. The dealer would enter 200, for example. That's what those options are for. Those options are yes or no if the casino wants to track buy-in and walkout amounts. Typically they don't, but it's possible that you can do that. Okay, so now we're going to go over here to this red power button. When you hit that, it takes you to the dealer login. So now this tablet is ready for a dealer to log in. If you remember, the dealer that we entered, Andrew, was 2076. So we're going to say 2076, and his PIN was 1111. Select a table. We're going to do the table that we created, which was BJ 101. So now you see here that BJ 101 is blackjack and the dealer is Andy. So this is basically the dealer's session. When you hit the chair and you swipe the card, that's the player session. By the way, you can run the tablet in the vertical or the horizontal mode, but typically when the table is in service, it's run with the tablet mounted on the gooseneck in the vertical mode. So you can see more data down below if you have several players.